Yeah, we're back at it, back in it. What a weekend we had in the world of combat sports, huh? God dang, son. We got the return of the GOAT, Jon Jones. And boy, did he stir up some headlines this weekend. The ducking of Tom Aspinall, the spinning back kick. Everything surrounding Jon Jones this week was fucking massive. Michael Chandler, Charles Olivera, a 5-rounder. Who's expecting that? Not me. But we got some big moments from that to friggin' fuck it. Come on, that was fantastic. And then Bo Nickal getting booed in MSG. Whoa. Babyface Bo has now turned heel. Big stories coming out of this weekend, and it all starts Saturday night, UFC 309. What a freaking card we had. Back to the old gloves. Controversy all freaking week. Jon Jones fighting off the duck allegations and then giving into them. Changing the profile picture, giving us the duck with the belt. The whole thing was fantastic. I mean, the appetite for this Tom Aspinall fight is just growing and growing and growing as the week went on. We saw the press conference. Dana saying Tom is next up. The crowd going freaking nuts. And then Jon Jones going out there and putting the performance he did against Stipe Miocic. You can say Stipe was old, Stipe shouldn't have been in there, whatever you want. Jon Jones looked good. The way he invested in Stipe's body, those kicks right on the belt line, ugh. I don't think Stipe looked slow. I actually think Stipe looked good. We saw what Cyril Gahn did with Jon Jones, and it was about 2 minutes of goddamn nothing. So the fact that we saw 3 rounds of Jones fighting at heavyweight and could really see the full arsenal, that's a testament to Stipe Miocic, who, by the way, did retire. Let's clap it up for Stipe. What a career he had. But the big story, God, did Jon look good. The takedown in the first round, the trip, slammed him, elbows, ugh, nasty. Got into the second round. Stipe had a little bit of a better round in the second round. If we look at the punch stats here, it was 20 significant strikes, Jones to Stipe 16. So found a little bit of success in the second round. And then the third round, of course, we all know what happens. A nasty spinning back kick right under the ribs, put Stipe down. Some big ground and pound, finished the job. Jon Jones remains a heavyweight champ. The appetite for Tom Aspinall just kept growing and growing and growing. And it's a testament to Jon Jones and how good he looked. And it's something that we don't often see at heavyweight, is this dynamic of striking, the wrestling capability. And I said this going into the fight. Stipe is no slouch on the ground. This is a guy that had 50 minutes against Daniel Cormier who was not really able to take him down and dominate him the way that Jon just did. So it makes the Aspinall fight more interesting because they were saying Tom's too big, he's too fast, he's too young, he's going to dominate him. I don't know how you can say that after seeing this performance. I'm not saying that Tom wouldn't win. I think he actually has a very good chance of winning. I think he might even come out as the favorite. But you could see Jon still got plenty left in the tank. And then we get to the post-fight interview. It seems like Jon Jones gives us, oh, if we can get the money right, then we'll give the people what they wanted. The crowd goes fucking crazy. And then Joe goes, who is that? Who is that? Is it Piera? Is it Aspinall? And he goes, I'd like to take this moment to thank Jesus Christ. Just fucking blue-balled the shit out of us, man. Blue-balled the shit out of us. The appetite is growing. Then he gets into the post-fight press conference. And he goes back to the same old routine. He's like, I want to fight Alex Pereira. I think that's the next fight for me. He says this. He says, but he does say, I will fight Tom, but I need fuck you money for it. Quotations. I don't know if it's exactly quotations, but it was. The fuck you part's quotations. Which I think Jon has the right to say. At his standing, the things that he's done in the UFC, the way that this fight is being built, Dana said the biggest heavyweight fight of all time. He's super complimentary of Jon. Every second he talks about him is how Jon is the GOAT. He's the pound for pound #1. And Jon wants, and I don't know what he's getting paid, but he wants fuck you money. And I think he's earned that right to ask for fuck you money. I mean, if you saw, and don't quote me on this because I don't actually know, but I guarantee Francis, since leaving the UFC, I know for a fact, actually, he's made fuck you money. So Jon's probably, I don't want to say he's pocket watching, but he sees for big fights, there's a precedent set. And the precedent is, the precedent is a fountain full of cash. So it's really going to come down to negotiations at this point. And I hope that they can figure that out because I know the appetite for this fight is huge. And I'm hoping one day next year, April, maybe March or April, we get Dana White on the phone. We get Dana White screaming at the phone going, holy shit, International Fight Week. We've got Jones versus Aspinall. Wow. It would go crazy. It would go crazy. The appetite for that fight is so high right now. To not capitalize on it, to give us the Alex Pereira fight, which is a fantastic fight. Don't get me wrong, a fantastic fight. It would feel like a letdown. Now as the fight gets closer and those two are matching up, you see the face-to-face, you do all this, maybe a little bit is forgotten. You can get, I can definitely get myself to get very excited about an Alex Pereira, Jon Jones fight. But there is only one answer, and the answer is Tom Aspinall, and that would be huge. I've been trying to rack my head around maybe the reasons why Jon wouldn't want to fight Tom. And I think part of it could be the fact that Tom is holding that interim belt. And not because Tom's not worthy, but because the fact that he is holding that interim belt means he gets a piece of the pie. He's treated as a champion when we go into this next fight. And I think they have to share pay-per-view points. I could be wrong. But I think because Tom is holding that belt, they're now going into business together, which does shrink Jon's pot. Granted, Alex Pereira is in the exact same situation where he is the actual champ, so I would assume that he'd also be in line for pay-per-view points, but I think Jon looks at Alex's career and says, "Oh yeah, he's earned these pay-per-view points. I'm more okay sharing my pot with him than I am with Tom Aspinall, who, just like he did with Stipe, I think is looking for reasons to hate him." That's the way Jon fights, though. And I could be dead wrong on that. I don't even know if, I don't know the back end of freaking negotiations and shit like that, but I feel like I've heard that before, is that interim champs are treated like champions in the fact that they now get a piece of the pie. So it's going to be super interesting to see how things play out over the next couple months. I just hope we don't have to wait too long. If we're looking past International Fight Week, if we're seeing a Jon Jones return past July, I'm not even mad at it from the perspective of Jon Jones. I'm mad at it from the perspective of Tom Aspinall, who's been out, who hasn't fought since the last time the UFC went to London, and I don't know, what was that, August or maybe July itself. So you just want a young guy like Tom to stay active, and there's only one clear fight that he can take, and there's only one fight that he can have right now, and it is to unify that heavyweight belt. So I just hope they can figure out that money. And I think the addition of Saudi in the Riyadh season and things like that could push this over the line if they can get the money right. No part of me thinks Jon is scared of Tom Aspinall, no. I don't think Jon Jones is scared of anybody. This guy's been training with heavyweights his entire life. Does he realize the threat of Tom? Sure. Bigger, stronger, younger. But he's Jon fucking Jones. I don't think he's scared of anybody. Hopefully we can get that across the line. We also had Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler on this card, and what a fucking fight that was. We got the fight of the night that we were expecting from these two guys. Maybe not in the way that we expected it. I don't think anybody thought this was going to go 5 rounds, but we did get that. And boy, did Charles Oliveira look good. 4 rounds, blank Michael Chandler. Got him down, dominant position on the back. Hurt him a couple times on the feet. Charles Oliveira looked freaking incredible Saturday night. But then you got Chandler, the true fighter that he is, 5th round. Cracks Charles Oliveira. It made it scary for a couple minutes. Is this really happening right now? Is Chandler turning the page? Is he going to get this victory? Charles gets his shot in, gets back to his back. All bets are off after that. He was like glue on Chandler's back that entire fight. But then that led us to one of the best moments of all time, which was Michael Chandler standing up with Charles Oliveira on his back like he did in the first fight, going to the center of the octagon, screaming, "Fuck it!" and then boom, slamming it on his back, getting back up, doing it again, boom, slamming it on his back, and then riding that to the fight's end. Just a fantastic moment. Again, Michael Chandler, in his own right, wins, losses do not matter. This guy is a star. And I think the biggest story coming out of this fight is Michael Chandler. Aside from that moment, which went nuclear on social media. The discussion after the fight was not surrounding Charles Oliveira and how good he looked. A lot of it was discussing Michael Chandler and how dirty he fought. The shots to the back of the head, the grabbing of the fence, you know, the fish hook of Dustin Poirier, all those things were circulating. Michael Chandler's a dirty fighter, and I think you can say, yeah, he is. But it's a killer be killed mindset that Michael Chandler goes in the cage with. And part of me loves it. I don't love the back of the head shots. I can get over a fence grab. A lot of fighters do that. I feel like that's a part of the game. The shots to the back of the head, a little worrisome because of, you know, how potentially dangerous that can be. Win or lose, he steals the headlines. Even in the loss, I think he's still in the running for the Conor fight. Now, do I think he should wait on a Conor fight after what he just waited on? No. Especially Dana saying that he's expecting Conor back at the end of 2025, which really kind of feels like we don't know when the fuck he's coming back, if he's coming back. But you can't take anything away from Charles Oliveira because he blanked the first 4 rounds of Michael Chandler. And I think he posed himself perfectly to have the next shot at the title. So big ups to that fight. That brings us down to Bo Nickal, Paul Craig. Boy, did the baby face get turned on this weekend. Bo Nickal. Damn. Bo Nickal booted MSG. First of all, I'd like to say it was the fight that I expected from Bo Nickal. I said going into this fight, we're going to see more boxing out of Bo just because of the real danger that is Paul Craig's guard. It is a dangerous place to be. Did I think we were going to get 3 rounds of pure boxing from Bo Nickal? No, I didn't think that. And I think that that's where a lot of the boost stem from, is because Bo is not a great boxer at this point in his career. He's just, you know, wrestling is his base. That's what he's trained his entire life in. He's only picked up striking over the course of the last 3 years, or whatever the case he may be, when he started training MMA. So it was just a low-level boxing fight, which I think boos are warranted for. And anytime you have a live crowd and the action is slow, you're going to get boos. At one point, even in the Michael Chandler-Charles Oliveira fight, some boos started sputtering out when Charles was just holding his back. That's just going to happen anytime. Doesn't matter who the fighter is. Anytime you're in a live arena and the action slows. It's a part of the game. The overrated chants, those had to hurt a little bit. Those ones had to hurt a little bit. And again, I thought Bo had a great fight. Not great, but I thought he had a good showing. 30-27 Paul Craig, who's a veteran of the game. No reason to hold your head down. My one thought with Bo Nickal is he doesn't do himself any favors in the aftermath of controversy. And we've seen it twice now with Bo. First one being against Jamie Pickett, which he dominated that fight, choked him out in the first round, but he also had the choke for like 2 minutes. He was sitting in full mount. I don't even remember what choke he was in, but had the choke in full mount. The commentators, people were saying if he would have stepped off onto the side, he could have finished that choke, but he decided to stay in full mount, which felt like it extended the time that he was squeezing for. We saw Bo Nickal in the aftermath be like, that's how I like to finish it. Those guys don't know what they're talking about. We got something similar this post-fight with Bo Nickal, where he said, I dominated that fight. Those guys don't know what we're talking about. Which is, it allows you to pile on to Bo when he doesn't necessarily deserve it. This is a big step up for Bo Nickal. Paul Craig, again, no slouch. Big step up for Bo Nickal, 30-27 him. All he had to say was, I could beat him on the feet. I beat him on the feet. That's what the fuck I do. Doesn't matter who you put in front of me. I am a winner. That's what you got to say. You can take the criticism any way you want, but I won. In the grand scheme of things, this does not matter. I took on a tough competitor, a guy that submitted the likes of Magomed Ankalaev, Jamal Hill, and I just 30-27'd him and did it without taking really a lick of damage. He could have said that. But in turn, he kind of fought back at the allegations, which are just going to allow people to pile onto him. And I don't even think it's all his fault. Paul Craig is just as much fault as Bo Nickal is for that fight being boring. Paul Craig offered really nothing in the fight, aside from standing in front of Bo and just being too tall for him to get to a lot of the times. He didn't really offer anything. So I think the way Bo handled in the aftermath, I think he could do better on. But at the end of the day, he won. I think he's going to keep rising up the ranks. As far as what's next for these guys, I pitched the idea of Bo Nickal going against Michel Pereira. Again, rising up the ranks. Michel sitting at 15 right now. Just lost to Anthony Hernandez. And I think there's a real path of victory for Bo there. Anthony just dominated Michel Pereira on the ground in one of the most lopsided fights you'll ever see. I think Bo was able to get in there, finish that job, and get himself a ranking. I think there's a real opportunity for that. And, you know, you could say you want to slow play Bo after this performance and say, you know, maybe we should take a back step. And I think that could be fair too. But if I'm just looking at the rankings and saying, okay, how can we progress? I think Bo can beat him. And if he can beat him, there's no reason that he shouldn't be in the top 15. That's just the way the world works. So I like that fight. As far as Michael Chandler, Charles Olivera, again, I think is in line for the next shot at the belt. So Islam, Arman are fighting supposedly in February. That's all but confirmed. Love that. I think Michael Chandler, I pitched the idea of Rafael Fiziev. I think that would be an absolute banger. Rafael's coming off of a knee injury. Haven't seen him in a while now. But his last full fight he had was against Justin Gaethje, a barn burner. And I think it does one of two things. First of all, Michael Chandler, win or lose, it's going to be exciting. But also, if Fiziev can get over on Michael Chandler, that's a big... You're really setting up a star there because it's going to be a fun fight. It's going to be a war. And if he can get through Michael Chandler, he's going to jump that much. He's just going to make that lightweight who's been not stale, but has been cycling through the same sort of contenders for a while now. You're giving some fresh blood in there. So I think that could be a great fight. But overall, what a freaking weekend, fellas. What a weekend we had. Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, John Jones, Stipe Miocic. If you're a fight fan, you had fun.